All right, Chandler, I know you're working the story tonight because things are developing. So you hear anything, you let us know. We're going to get you right back on the air tonight. In the meantime, what Chandler was talking about, these recorded conversations between Lori Vallow and her attorney, you can't do that. That's not permitted. That is a real problem, folks. KSTU, one of our affiliate stations out in Utah, doing a great job in covering this story, has some information about that recording, which is going to be a big part of what we're going to hear in court tomorrow.
This is video of defense attorney Mark Means getting ready to visit his client, Lori Vallow, her first night in an Idaho jail cell. But now the Madison County Jail admits it may not have been that night, but one of the conversations that took place between the two of them was supposed to remain private, but didn't. It was recorded.
It's upsetting that it happens in such a high-profile case when there's so much at stake.
Lori's attorney now understands that the jail's quote-unquote mistake could benefit his client. At the very least, he wants her bond to be reduced.
It's certainly not grounds to have the case thrown out or anything like that, but it could give the attorney some basis to claim that holding her in jail just isn't working out.
Prosecutors say the conversation was recorded on accident because of new coronavirus policies and quickly deleted. The jail did not offer an explanation to Fox 13, only saying the case is now under investigation.
I think there's reason to be suspect about the conduct of the jail in this case.
And this is going to be one of the big arguments the defense is expected to make tomorrow as a reason why Lori Vallow Daybell should have her bond reduced and should be able to get out of jail in preparation for her preliminary hearing and perhaps her trial if and when it happens. All right, let's get some insight now. We've got our think tank tonight. Joining us, folks, Michelle Simpson-Tugall, civil attorney, former criminal defense attorney. She's in Dallas. Marcia Migno is a criminal defense attorney in Atlanta. And Andrew Cherkowski, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, joins us from Irvine, California. Great to have everyone with us. Michelle, let me begin with you. A recorded conversation between a defense attorney and his client. This is the only way he can communicate with her is at the jail, and they recorded the conversation. Is this a basis to get the bond reduced, to get her sprung from jail?
I don't know that it's a basis to get her out. It's certainly a huge violation and a problem and something that he definitely needs to bring to the court's attention. But if I were the judge looking at this, weighing that problem with the risk that we know that she poses. I mean, bodies are dropping all over the place, and she has shown the court that she will abscond and she will not show up. And so this is someone that poses a risk, and the judge does have to weigh that. And I don't think that the fact that the jail has made what is a huge error and violation of her constitutional protections means that she just gets out. It means the judge needs to direct and keep a really close tab that this facility is not violating her rights.
Andrew, how do you prepare? How do you prepare for a bond hearing? How do you prepare for a preliminary hearing? How do you prepare for a trial with these restrictions and then the thought that, hey, everything I say may be recorded here?
Oh, Vinny, this is crazy. I mean, this is the sort of, I've had this happen to me once before, where my client was in jail the first week he was being recorded, and that got back to the prosecutor's paralegals. They listened to it, although they said they didn't really listen to what was said, but they actually had the discs. I had the entire prosecution team wiped off that case. A whole new prosecution team from a separate area had to come in and take over the case. So I'd stop even with the bond proceedings, and I'd ask for the prosecutors to be disqualified.
Marcia, how would you attack this one?
I don't know if I could go after prosecutorial misconduct because the conduct occurred at the jail. So making the connection with the jail conduct and the prosecution is going to be an issue. I absolutely would be fighting for her to come out because I cannot prepare my client and or my case while the state has the potential of listening to the conversations that we're having. The issue that the prosecution is going to be able to be arguing is that she is a flight risk. And based on her prior conduct, I think that's where the hardest hurdle is for the defense to override tomorrow.
Yeah, that trip to Hawaii is coming back to bite her, and then she didn't come back to Idaho when she was ordered to do so. Just didn't show up, refused to come back. Andrew, let's talk about the other big issue in court tomorrow and in courtrooms across the country, which is all these social distancing restrictions. I mean, if you've got to stay 6 feet apart, I mean, how do you go into a courtroom effectively if your client's got to be way over there and you're on this side and people are wearing masks? How does this happen? How does justice get served under a scenario like that?
You know, Vinny, I don't know. Monday, this coming up Monday, is going to be my first hearing back in court to deal with this. I've been off for the 6 weeks like most of the rest of America. I haven't dealt with it yet. I haven't even thought it through. Most of my clients who aren't dealing with being in some sort of confinement status, I've pushed off and continued all those cases. So, you know, I've got a lot of concerns. I don't want to go to court where I'm not at my best, where I'm too far away from people, where my modes of examination are being restricted. So it's going to be really difficult for at least the next few months.
All right, Michelle, we know someone is going to testify tomorrow. Prosecutors have said they're going to call someone, maybe an investigator. How about Chad Daybell? Do you think there's a chance he could testify?
There is a chance, but I'm really curious if he is going to try to show up and help Lori, or if he's going to help himself and hold tight to these cultish, religious beliefs, if that's going to be more important to him. I am curious if they will call him. And I mean, really, how long has Chad Daybell even known Lori? I mean, this is not someone, I mean, maybe he's known her a few years, but he hasn't known her like a lot of the other people who might be able to speak to her character who have known her. Friends, people who worked with her, people in her family who now have seen this bizarre behavior that is inconsistent and dangerous. And so I just wouldn't give a lot of weight to Chad Daybell. I mean, he is part of the facilitation of this problem. And quite frankly, I don't understand why he's not in custody too.
You know, Marsha, I was speaking with Ted Rollins, and he had a great point that he made. For Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell, they know that the world is ending in July, right? They know in July, they will be the chosen ones to go on with their 144,000. But if she's locked up and he's on the outside, that's a problem. So for them, this bond hearing and just getting released so you're out and about and not locked up when it happens in July is the Super Bowl for them. So what can they do? What can they argue? What could Chad Daybell possibly say if he testifies to get his partner that is going to lead the 144,000 out of jail?
I absolutely do not believe Chad is going to bring any value to that hearing tomorrow. If the defense gets one witness, that witness needs to be somebody who's from the jail that they can bring in to say, hey, we actually recorded it. We were listening to it. We do listen to conversations with her and her attorney. We just got caught doing it, and get somebody on cross-examination to admit to the court how risky it is to keep her in custody. Chad is not going to make her case any better for release tomorrow. It might make it worse.
So, Andrew, this is the beginning of the case. There's a lot to go. There's a preliminary hearing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lori Vallow Daybell, when she first appeared in court, after she was brought back from Hawaii, had 3 attorneys. Now she's down to 1 attorney. I don't know what kind of client she is, but how important for that attorney-client relationship is it to get them free, to get them out of jail? I can't imagine that she wants anything else more than getting out of jail to be with Chad. I mean, she doesn't care about the kids. She won't tell anyone where the kids are. That's irrelevant. For her, she needs to be with Chad. She left her kids to go to Hawaii to hang out with Chad. She's done everything with and for this man, and now they are separated.
You know, Vinny, you're talking about reasonable people who want reasonable outcomes. We can't assess that to her. We can't give her the benefit of being reasonable here. There's not really anything she's done at any point in time that's particularly reasonable. So to say she wants out or she wants to be with Chad, what we know is she's got particular doomsday sort of predictions, what's going on in her head, what she thinks might happen if she gets out or if she stays in or what she's doing there. You just got to be very careful not to give her any, I guess, credence in assuming that she's somehow being reasonable in anything that she's doing.
All right, again, tomorrow, huge day here on Court TV, live coverage. We expect it to start around 4 o'clock or so Eastern time, but stay tuned. You know, keep your eye on Court TV all day. In the meantime, when we come back, we've got a missing couple in North Carolina, very suspicious disappearance, but there are some very important pictures that we need to show you at the moment they left their home. That's coming up next. Got a case out of North Carolina, this couple missing tonight. There is a search underway, some suspicious circumstances surrounding all of this has family members very, very concerned. The police in Wilmington, North Carolina spoke about this. The women, Stephanie Mayorga, 27, Paige Escalara, 25 years old. Let's hear more now from the police in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Good afternoon. On April 19, 2020, Wilmington police were called to a report of two missing women at 376 South Kerr Avenue. The reporting party was a roommate of the missing women. The reporting party stated that the two women had gone missing on the night of April 15, 2020, and the reporting party was under the misconception that you couldn't report a missing persons until 72 hours had elapsed. A missing person report was filed and both women were entered into the National Crime Information Center database. Officers on scene began the preliminary investigation and detectives were notified. It is not unusual for persons of this age group to be spontaneous. It was unusual that the roommates didn't come back home and also that they had left all their property in the home. Inside the victim's apartment was unremarkable. There were no signs of foul play and much of their property was still in the apartment. Investigators have reached out and received assistance during this investigation from numerous area law enforcement agencies, local, state, and federal. We have utilized our Sable aircraft to search broad areas of interest in an effort to find the missing Dodge Dart. Detectives of the Wilmington Police Department are taking every possible investigative step to develop any leads that arise. During the course of the investigation, which is ongoing, detectives have spoken to family members and are in the process of collecting further information from friends, family, and co-workers of both missing women in an attempt to gather information as to where they may have gone and when they went missing on the night of April 15, 2020. During the investigation, we have also recovered video of the missing women when they left their apartment on the evening of April 15, 2020. They were together. They got into the Dodge Dart together and they have not been seen since. Their departure from the apartment appeared to be entirely normal on the video that we recovered. We are including still shots from that video footage, which contains their clothing they were last seen wearing. Stephanie was wearing a black Nike sweatshirt with "Just Do It" on the front, black leggings with white stripes down the front to the back of the leggings, and black Nike shoes. Paige was wearing a gray in color zip-up sweatshirt with white pull strings and a white zipper, black leggings, and black tennis shoes with a white stripe on the side. They got into the 2013 Dodge Dart, it's gray in color, bearing South Carolina registration Mike Victor Sierra 902, MVS 902, and they left going north on Kerr Avenue. Please look at the stickers on the included photos of the Dodge Dart, as well as the damage to the left rear bumper. These items should certainly help to quickly identify this vehicle because they make it unique. We believe that it's extremely important for those in the entire metropolitan area, including Brunswick, Pender, Columbus, and Onslow counties, to be on the lookout for the gray Dodge Dart. And please look carefully at the photos that have been sent out previously of the two women, as well as the clothing they are wearing and the included screenshots from April 15, 2020. If any of Stephanie Paige's friends, family members, or coworkers have any information that may be relevant as to where the victims may have been traveling to on the night of April 15th, we urge you to call 910-343-3620 to speak with a detective. Our text tip system by texting tip 708. Your texts are anonymous. If you have seen these women since April 15, 2020, we ask you to call us or to use text to tip. If you see the women at a location, immediately call 911 to get law enforcement to them. I want to say, in addition to that we do have there is some connection of the page, the missing woman page. There's a connection to Spartanburg, South Carolina for her, as well as some yet uncorroborated information, which we're working with technology to corroborate that information, that they may be or may have been located in Brunswick County. So we would ask that Brunswick County, Navassa, and Leland be on the sharp lookout for the included photos of this Dodge Dart. Thank you very much for your help, and we hope this has a happy ending.
So it seems investigators have some sort of lead based upon something, maybe a cell phone, although we believe one cell phone was left back in the home. There's a dog left back in the home, all the belongings left back in the home. This doesn't make sense. The family is concerned. Let's bring back in our think tank. And Marcia Migno, I'll begin with you. There's video of them leaving and then never coming back. You look at the way they're dressed, it looks like maybe they're just going to the supermarket. And in the world we're living in now, I mean, people just aren't just going anywhere. They're not taking wild trips anywhere. People are pretty much staying home. This is concerning.
Absolutely. I mean, when you have a missing persons case, it's very, very difficult to explain why someone, if they're just going on a vacation or they're going on a trip, have left their cell phone or have left their laptop. The items that they've left behind, it begs the question that something nefarious has occurred as it pertains to these young ladies. And time is of the essence in these type of cases. So the law enforcement has lost valuable time. If you think about the 72 hours that these individuals waited mistakenly in reporting that these women were missing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think, yeah, you got to wait. We see that in all these cop shows. You got to wait. You can't make a report. But yes, you can.
Too much TV, too much
Michelle, absolutely. Michelle, so looking at everything going on here, you know, these days it just seems like it would be difficult to just disappear between cell phones, social media, and here you're talking about two people that are together.
Yeah, and I do wonder if there is one cell phone with them or if there's some sort of location device on the vehicle, because so many vehicles have that these days. Who knows if they had Apple Watches or different types of devices that might provide locating information in their car or on their person. But I also am very curious about the fact that they were selling items online. I believe the roommate reported that to law enforcement. And maybe they had some of those items in their vehicle and they were going to meet with that person who could have been a stranger. And I can't help but wonder about that element of this, because this is such a strange disappearance of two young, healthy, normal women who had no reason to disappear. And so trying to understand what happened here, it does make me wonder if this is a case, a very rare case of stranger violence.
Andrew Cherkowski, the other part of the equation we come back to again, I asked you about in a courtroom, but in real life, I mean, people are staying in their homes. There's not as many people out. There's not as many cars out. There's just not the normal flow of humans that we normally have. I would think that would make this a little bit easier to track down someone, but I'm not sure.
Well, I would tend to agree with that, Vinny. I think that's a great point. I hadn't really thought about that much. I would say that really at this point, what the law enforcement agents really need to be focused on is who's got some sort of motive or some sort of connection to them. If they're coming up empty on that, I think that that it's a great point that it's probably some sort of stranger violence, something nefarious, because what you saw them when they left the house, they didn't have things with them. They weren't going anywhere for any period of time. You know, when people are leaving for days or weeks on end, they've got suitcases, they've got bags with them, they've got something. They didn't have anything. So something is here that we're not getting answers to? And I really want to know about those cell phone pings. Why don't we have more information about that? Maybe the police have something they don't want to share with the public, and I perhaps don't blame them for that.
Yeah, and I think they're
Vinny,
sharing now because they need some help. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, I do feel really sorry for the family here because I know with COVID, there's just been a big delay for this family in getting information from law enforcement. And I know the police may be doing their best, but that's particularly hard for families at a time like this, is the extra delay inherent with what's going on.
It took them a week.
Absolutely. When we come back, we've got to move on. I'm
sorry.
sorry. Yep, they did wait. There was this huge delay. We'll talk more about that. We'll continue to cover that story. Got to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Lori Vallow Daybell. Tomorrow, she'll be in court live. You'll see it, hear it right here on CourtTV. And we've got some breaking news tonight in the Lori Vallow Daybell case. Tomorrow here on CourtTV, a bond hearing. She's trying to get that bond reduced so she can get out of jail before her preliminary hearing and her trial, if and when it happens. That's all happening tomorrow. But tonight, breaking, some late filings in the case from prosecutors. So earlier at the top of the hour, we were just getting our hands on this, and I was speaking with Chanley Painter. Chanley's had some time now to go through those documents, and she joins us again tonight, CourtTV correspondent. So Chanley, you've had some time here to go through those documents. What have you learned about what prosecutors have now filed with the court at this late hour?
Right. So the prosecution, at a quite late hour, almost less than 24 hours before the bond hearing is set to be heard tomorrow, is filing 3 documents. One in an objection to the defendant's motion for bond reduction, and it's quite lengthy. Basically, they take each point the defense made in its motion for bond and pick it apart, even the wrong dates they're accused, the misinformation they're saying the defense lodges in its motion to reduce bond. And first of all, what is, I guess, breaking is that it wasn't just one phone call that was recorded at the jail. There are multiple. There's 2 phone calls that were recorded between Lori Vallow Daybell and her attorney, Mark Means. Now, in the defense motion, it cites March 30th as the day that the jail recorded the phone call. But the prosecution is saying, no, it wasn't March 30th, because on March 30th, the defense asked it not to record the phone conversation. Then when the defense attorney returned the next day, according to this prosecution document, there were 2 phone calls between the attorney and client. Both were recorded. And the prosecution is saying, look, the defense attorney knew to ask for the recording to be turned off. He did not do so. So it's kind of like the prosecution is putting the blame on the defense attorney that these were recorded in the first place, Vinny. In addition to this response, they also filed 2 affidavits, one from a Rexburg Police Department officer who was actually listening in on the call. And when he realized it was an attorney and a client, he immediately stopped recording the phone call. And then another one who talks about the measures that they took afterwards to delete these recordings.
Okay, now these phone calls, and I'm not sure if we even know, but are the phone calls made at the jail? Like you go to the jail to visit your client and then you pick up one of those phones? Or is it like the lawyer's at his office and is getting a call from the jail? Do we know?
The attorney was at the jail. So the jail has taken some COVID-19 precautions. So attorneys aren't able to meet with their clients in a normal private way as they would. The defense outlines in its motion how now they were in the public visiting room, where you go and there's a glass between the client. You have to pick up the phone. Of course, that's recorded. And if the attorney wanted to talk about these discovery motions or filings or prepare for hearings, they can't pass documents. The only secure way to pass a document is to hand it off to somebody else, several hands that go through doors around and about to get to the client. And the defense is saying, look, how do I know, how can I ensure attorney-client privilege under these circumstances? And so the response of the prosecution tonight is directly addressing that, saying, well, you can ask that it not be recorded, which the defense didn't do according to prosecution, and you can put these documents in envelopes that are sealed, and you can make sure that nobody's peeking at them when they're trying to deliver them to your client.
All right. I mean, these are different times, and I understand there are some problems, but it looks like, yeah, prosecutors saying how you can do it, because these issues seemingly would apply not just to Lori Vallow Daybell, but perhaps any inmate inside that jail, you know, waiting for a hearing and waiting for their trial. So, Chanley Painter bringing us the breaking news tonight. I appreciate you staying late, working hard, and bringing us that breaking news. Thanks so much. Let's bring back in our think tank tonight with this new information that we've just learned, that it's not just one call. But let's start there. Not one call, but 2 calls, Marcia. 2 calls. Is that more troubling?
That says there's a pattern going on here. And if you have to come up with creative ways to get documents to your client and have to pray that nobody's reading the documents or the communication that you're submitting to your client prior to it being delivered, and that you are now going to be running the risk of your trial strategy or your motion hearing strategy being revealed to the prosecution through these recordings, I think there's going to be a problem. And to blame it on the defense, the state saying, hey, guess what? You should have asked for the recordings not to occur, the response to that would be, hey, the jail is who asked me to use that type of phone, which is the normal visitation phone. Therefore, since they placed me in that booth and I didn't just walk in and use those phones instead of the attorney booth, the jail should have been prepared to make sure that I wasn't being recorded. I shouldn't have to ask for it not to be recorded.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, Andrew. Go ahead, Michelle.
You know, and that's where I'd have to disagree a little bit. I think this problem, and it is a problem, of recording inmates and their attorneys is widespread. And I think it happens way more than attorneys and clients realize, because we don't know what we don't know. And so I'm not making excuses for this facility, but I think that because of how widespread we all know who have been in criminal practice that this is, we have to be asking. I remember having really confidential psychological testing of a capital defendant that I represented. And I literally went into the supervisor of the jail and was like, I want you to ensure that there are no cameras on in this room, because this is very confidential testing. And I think in a case this high profile, I don't think it's unreasonable that to some degree the attorney should be making that request. But the burden is on the jail not to do this and to get this right and to stop making these mistakes. And it really stops looking like a mistake at some point and like a pattern.
Andrew, right now the prosecution is saying, listen, criminal defense attorneys, go in there and make sure that no one's listening to privileged communication between you and your client.
Right. You know, I think Michelle makes a great point. Marcia really makes a great point in kind of, does this degrade your overall trust in your ability to prepare with your client? Realistically, I don't think any court is going to shut down essentially the ability to have people in pretrial confinement because of one instance or 2 instances where there's no nexus with the prosecutors listening in or law enforcement detectives listening in. What the judge is going to say is, what do you want? More time? Do you want us to require more settings where you can go to the jail and make sure that X, Y, and Z so that you feel like it's not being recorded? You know, the judge might make some accommodations, but I don't think the judge is going to turn around. Not in a case like this, that's this high profile, that has instances of prior fleeing. This is not going to be what busts her out of jail.
Yeah, Marcia, it seems that what would if this is a basis to get out or get a significantly reduced bond, it would apply to any inmate who is in jail waiting for a hearing, a trial, for their moment in court, right?
Well, not necessarily. You got to look at the totality of the circumstances here, Vinny. What you're looking at is, what are her charges? How much is she a threat to the community, or is she a threat to her family and her children? What are her priors? Is she charged with murder in this case? I don't even think we're there yet. So to be treating her as if she's already charged with murder and not looking at her regular charges. And had she not had media and all this attention to the case, she'd be out on a way lower bond. $1 million bond is extremely high for the kind of charges that she's facing. And if the state was really paying attention here, they would let her out and let her talk to Chuck and record some of those conversations where they could really get to information about where those kids are.
You know, Vinny, we got 2 missing
All right,
kids
folks.
here. The stakes couldn't be higher. This is as bad as it gets.
Absolutely. All right, we've got one more story we got to cover tonight. Video going viral out of Philadelphia involving some police officers and a passenger on a bus dragged out. It's our 13th juror question tonight. The 13th juror speaks when we come back. And it's a sign of the times. That video coming from Philadelphia, and there's a passenger on a bus, and they made a rule that everyone had to wear face masks on the bus. He didn't have one. He was asked to leave by the bus driver, then was asked to leave by a police officer, would not get off the bus, and then they dragged him off the bus. Put it up on Facebook today, and really simple question, is this out of control, right? Comment of the day coming from Pauletta, 13th juror. She's writing, here in Pennsylvania, anyone with a medical condition which doesn't have to be disclosed is exempt from wearing a mask. However, if folks followed laws and ordinances, there would be no issues. The passenger more than likely knew the rules and should have worn a mask unless he was exempt for his own safety and for the safety of others. What's wrong with people? Just my opinion. All right, Marcia, taking a look at that video. Taking a look at this situation. You're not wearing a mask, get off the bus. No, we drag you off the bus. Your thoughts?
Absurd. Totally absurd. Law enforcement is supposed to be there to protect and serve. This is a situation where masks are even limited right now, and people were even sewing masks to give to other individuals. This feel-good story would have turned differently if one of the officers had just pulled out one of his extra masks out of his pocket or his car and given it to this guy to have his ride home for the day. That would have been an easy solution. We'd be covering something totally different.
Yeah, and
Gail
I
writing
just,
tonight. Wait, I'm going to get to you one at a time. I want to hear from Gail first. Gail writes, I know we are experiencing something we have never in modern history had occur, but the person getting on the bus does not have a law to wear a mask, so how can the police justify bodily removing him as they are doing on camera? This will result in a lawsuit, and the man will then be able to drive a car he purchases with the money from Philadelphia's coffers and not have to take the bus. Ugh. If the others on the bus are wearing masks and the person not wearing one sits over 6 feet from the rest, he is not causing any issue for anyone. We do live in America the last time I looked, Michelle.
well, and the last time I looked at this video, if you see the part with the bus driver, he's not wearing a mask. And so it's a little crazy to me that he's demanding that people get off the bus who aren't wearing a mask, and he's saying that, and he's not wearing a mask. And so I totally agree with Marcia that this could have turned out completely different, and that they could have handed a $1 mask to this guy rather than drag him off with 7 to 10 police officers and violence. It's just unnecessary. But on the same token, I think of that bus driver in Michigan who got sick from someone coughing on him and then posted about it and died 2 weeks later. So there is a safety issue here, and people need to take that into account. But I don't think we have to resort to violence.
By the way, after this video was posted and went viral, the authority in Philadelphia changed the rules. Now it's suggested that you wear a mask, but not necessary that you have to ride the bus. Anne Marie writes, is it the law? Well, no, it's not the law. It was kind of like a guidance, a rule. And when he got on, was he told he had to have one? If he entered the bus without and was not asked to put one on when entry, then I say it was wrong what they did. Andrew, looking at the way they've reacted to all this now, I guess they were not happy with the way this video played out. To me, sometimes I'm shocked that people in the moment don't necessarily see that.
You know, I don't get it, Vinny. I don't get why tempers get elevated, why you're pulling people off the bus. You know it's recorded. You know it's going to look bad. I mean, at the end of the day, mask, or had this guy gotten on the bus without pants on, the police would have been called. You know, in our society now, you have to have certain types of garments, and that now includes a face mask, I guess, in certain places. But the police have to just slow it down. If that means a new bus has to come and you're going to have a standoff with this guy and it's going to be peaceful and calm, just keep it calm. Come on.
Yeah, and you know, speaking about, and right now they're not necessarily mandating masks on airplanes, which is another interesting concept going on here. Kanaka with a great comment tonight. Maybe he couldn't obtain a mask. Target gives customers masks if they don't have one. Why can't city and county issue out masks for those who don't have one? And I think that's kind of what we've been talking about, Marcia, right? That, hey, you got a rule. Maybe not everyone has one. Maybe there's some way for them to be provided. You know, private companies like Target apparently doing that.
And law enforcement should have a pack. There's probably a box in one of these guys' car, or there were extra ones in somebody's pocket. It would have been really easy to just take out a mask and hand it to this guy and say, hey, you know what? We're going to do what citizens do. I've seen feel-good stories about what law enforcement officers have done over the years, and it looks great. They would have had a great coverage, and people would have been talking about. Video could have gone viral for a different reason. Man doesn't have mask, and officer takes one out and gives it to him.
And to the bus driver.
And to the bus driver.
I love all your optimism.
And the other officer who was not even wearing his mask properly in the video while he's fighting this guy.
That's interesting. Great job tonight. Michelle Tugel, Marcia Migno, Andrew Cherkowski. Appreciate your time, your expertise. Please stay safe.
Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That'll do it. We do it every night from 8 to 11. In the meantime, as always, have a great night. And from a distance, don't forget to hug the kids.
3,